that just saves me breaking up the video later on and having another job to do. Mm. Mm. This next session, they get recorded and published on YouTube publicly, so they're available for everybody to look at. But if you want a link to them, or you want to be on the notification list where I'll generally send out a link to them, just send me your email and I'll add you. That's fine. Yeah. Well, welcome everybody. More will turn up as we go, but yeah. So James, tell me, what does it take to change a belief?
Oh my God, what does it take to change a belief? Wow. I think, first of all, there has to be some sort of understanding. First of all, I think you've got to realize maybe there's something wrong with the belief you've already got. Because if I've got a belief and I don't think there's anything wrong with it, then I don't think anything anybody would do would make it change. So I think first there has to be sort of a crack in the belief. Then there's a period of despair between losing that belief and picking up a new one.
Right.
And then hopefully the new one's better than the old one.
So here's a question. If you drop a belief, is it always replaced by another belief?
No, I have had the experience of losing a belief or dropping a belief, feeling not completely, but pretty abject and lost without it. And then slowly realizing that there was nothing to replace it.
Right.
Yeah, and nothing needed to replace it. But there was a period where it felt, I'll tell you what it was. I read a book and it was about the structure of society. and how really the structure of society is just paper thin. It's an illusion. Yeah, we believe that society is there to do certain things for us, and it isn't. So it sort of stripped away my belief in the fact that the police are there to protect me and my government is there to educate me and so on. Yeah. And then when that fell away, it was like, oh my God, what's going to hold my life together? And it probably took about a week or so to suddenly realize, well, life carried on anyway, even without the belief. But there was a period where it felt very difficult.
Right. So is there a crack in your belief about the existence of a self yet?
Yes, there are definite cracks.
So is it just going to take one more crack for it to fall away completely?
Hopefully. I mean, I don't know what's holding it together. And if I could pull off the sellotape or whatever it is that's still holding it together, I'd gladly do it. It's just, I'm not waiting in the sense of, oh, you know, when's it going to happen? But in just using general language, I'm waiting for that glimpse to happen. You know, that falling away, whatever it is, on any level, even if it's just the fact that after coming here for roughly getting on for 6 months, my thick head finally gets into in its skull that nothing's really going to happen. It's already there. This is the way it is, you know, and I'm comfortable with that. But at the moment, the seeker still wants to seek.
Can I play with you a little, James, and see
Play
what
away.
happens?
Play away.
So what tells you, whatever you do believe right now, are you sure you believe it? Is there anything you're sure of right now?
That's very right. Is there anything I'm sure of? No.
Cool. That's nice. So yeah, if we just stay with that a bit, can we maybe just hang out with that a bit and see how that is? Just stay with it. There's actually nothing that's held as certain right now.
Let me backtrack. Let me take 1 step forward and 2 steps back. On the surface, there's nothing I'm sure about. When we talk about it like this, but if I really sit back and just go, what's going on in here? You know, what do I feel? There is a part of me that's still sure there's a self somewhere in there. However much it's cracked and flaking and you know, withering under the pressure.
How do you know? Okay, what tells you that?
Don't.
How do you know? Nice.
It's just a feeling.
Well, how do you know? What tells you that there is that feeling? How do you know? So yeah, my sense, I could be wrong. Okay, my sense, and I could be wrong, but somehow I wonder. Like I wonder if, like maybe if you're really sincere, maybe you would, maybe I don't know. Like maybe you would see that you don't know, that you don't feel you know.
No, the sincerity feels more like saying I do know. Because I think if I was sincere,
that's very interesting. What tells you that? What can you just look now in your direct experience? What tells you that?
In my direct experience at this very moment, there's a feeling just above my stomach that feels slightly warm, and that's where the certainty is coming from. That's it.
Are you sure?
Well, I'm sure that's where the sensation is, and that's
Do
where I think.
Do you notice you hesitated? Do you notice you're hesitated?
Yes.
Good. Nice. So my sense is that I get a sense there is this openness here, and then something else comes along, which is interesting, whatever that is. And maybe we could, let's try this way. Again, it's just a game, kind of.
Yep.
Okay. So what are you worried would be insincere about saying that you don't know? What's your concern about how you might be insincere if you said, I don't know, I don't know?
I don't have any concern
Are you
about
sure?
it.
Are you
Yeah,
stuck?
definitely.
Are you sure? What?
No,
Come again?
100%.
Are
100%,
you
I'm
sure
sure,
you don't have a
because
concern about being insincere? Are you sure it's not a concern for you, that it's important for you to be sincere, and there is a concern of falling into insincerity?
I have no idea at the moment with that.
Good. That's good. That's a good thing. Can you just hang out with that a bit, just a moment, and just see how, just the sensation of it without, yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe just be really curious about how it feels to be there. And have a sense that there's nothing you need to say about it. It's more about you're welcome to, but there's nothing you need to say about it. The most important thing is just what you feel, like what can be felt.
The thing I want to say, I could describe the feelings, but I don't think that's going to get me anywhere. The thing I want to say is, oh, go on.
I agree. I don't think describing the feeling would be the main thing. I think my sense is that the main thing would be to get curious about it. And maybe also, yeah.
Can I just broaden out just a little bit?
Sure.
Because Alan said something very interesting to me, which I misheard last week. But he said, I think it was something along the lines of, what we do here is look. And he actually said, don't go into the mind. And I thought he said, don't do it. And I sort of jokingly had a go at him. Yeah. But I misunderstood what he said. So during this whole week, I've been looking. And the trouble I've had, and the trouble I'm having now with what you're asking me to do, is I immediately go into mind. As soon as you ask me to look, that's a thought. Yeah. And I have the thought, oh, I'll look.
Yeah, I hear you.
So I'm looking from the I, the self. Yeah.
So may I offer, my sense is you don't go immediately to the mind. You actually often stop up and something happens, just my feeling as I talk with you. And then maybe something else happens, okay? Which I think there's been a lot of talking about many times, this something else that happened. Yeah, but I think it might be valuable to just give attention to those moments that are actually there. Like I'll dare say my feeling is that if you were completely bent, okay, if you were just like this with the next thing, it would feel the feeling would be different. And we're going a bit quick here. If that might be me, but I'm actually going a bit quick here. I think if I was sitting alone with you, I would go even slower. But now I just had a call. I'll need to go in a moment. Actually, funny, but but I think what's interesting to notice is that just this little something. Yeah, and I think you're right about not hurrying to say something about it. It's just noticing this little something. Yeah. And going deeper into the felt sense of that, because I think it's deeper than you quite have given yourself the time to notice. Like, I think there's more feeling in there than you quite have given yourself the time to notice. And yeah, and I have a sense that when that gets a bit more space, it will do something good. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Bye, everybody. I have to go. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Elad. Yeah. Elad's such a kind, gentle person. You know, I would get you on the floor and sit on your chest and slap your face from side to side. Yeah. What I picked up on there, James, was that you have a belief about feeling. You give feeling, and maybe this is partly because of the way LU work with direct experience. That may be part of it, maybe what you brought to that. But you have a belief that feeling is somehow more valid than thought, and it's true to say that you can't believe any thoughts and that your body never lies. But what your body never lies about is what you believe. It doesn't have any access to any absolute truth. It responds unequivocally to beliefs. And so looking to your feelings to validate something isn't going to work. So
another thing I need to strip away.
You can't trust your thoughts and you can't trust your feelings in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about the body yes and body no that Pernella talks about?
Sure. Again, though, your body's going to respond with a body. So what that's about is that the body will take you, the body knows what's going on subconsciously that the mind doesn't. So there's a validity in that. So if I ask you what you believe, your body will tell me with a body yes and a body no. But it doesn't know about the universe per se. It only knows about what you believe. And what you believe at a deep level, what you believe that you don't know you believe even, what it knows about pre-verbal conditioning that the mind has totally forgotten about, never developed a memory to forget.
But if you're in a situation, or if two options come up and one creates feels constricting and the other feels open,
you can trust that. You can trust that your intuition, if you like to use that word, is telling you something that maybe your mind can't access.
But when you were saying to James to not trust the feelings, were you referring to something different?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh.
So if you can see that the body knows about, let's say, you know, you can't make up your mind about doing something. So you ask the body, so to speak, and you get a body yes or a body no about that. You can trust that there's some subliminal information that the body's responding to. And it could be conditioning, or it could be even what's noticed out there that the mind hasn't picked up on. You know, you see things that you don't know you see. You hear things that you don't know you hear, because they're covered by the noise of thoughts, or they're covered by even just external noises, you know. So how often do you suddenly recognize that you're hearing bird sounds that you weren't a second ago, yet they were there a second ago, but you weren't hearing them. Now all of a sudden you recognize that you're hearing them. Okay, so what that's happened is that there's just a shift in focus. Something's happened, but the body would have heard it all along. The body would know, you know. So it's just like that.
Is the difference that when you talk about not trusting the feelings, the body yes and no is a more subtle, it's, no, I don't know. I'm not clear on the feeling that you're not supposed to trust.
Yeah. Don't put your hand up, JP. Just jump in. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'll tell you from my personal experience, sometimes how this works. So after I began seeing, let's call it that, I found that when I was talking to people in a truthful manner, which is, you know, kind of like this forum where we speak the truth to each other, I would be speaking the truth and my body would be freaking out. I would be literally shaking in my chair. And so, you know, so in that situation, it's like, okay, what's happening? And I realized, you know, like Vince is saying, the body responds to ideas that you have about yourself. And basically by, you know, speaking truth in, you know, a forum like this, it's a challenge to everything you think you know about yourself. And your
Okay,
body,
I understand that. Yeah.
your body has all those responses. So it's trying to say, no, go back in the cave, go back to the way you were, stop
Right.
talking stuff, you know, go back into the darkness. So
Okay, I got that.
you get it? So like,
Sure.
it kind of works both ways. You can sort of trust, sometimes you can trust your feelings, and sometimes you actually have to just plow ahead in the face of whatever you're feeling. And then you can find out whether those feelings actually mean anything by, you know, how it all unfolds.
Yeah.
So like there's a risk, you know, like when you're living, you know, in the truth, you're living on a knife edge between what you know from your past and your conditioning, and then what's actually unknown. So you're on that knife edge, and you're kind of, you always have a bit of a choice there. So if you kind of move towards the unknown, then a lot of things can come up that can be quite disturbing. And, you know, it's maybe not pleasant, but if you explore it, you'll realize, you know, that it's, you're actually on the wrong path. You're actually on the right path because, you know, all that condition is attempting to drag you back. I don't know if that helps at all, but
I think
Well, I had a situation. You want to go ahead?
I think some of the confusion, or maybe it's my confusion with Byron Katie, is she uses, first of all, she has the presupposition that there are things that are true and there are things that are false. And she'll ask a husband, well, do you really love your wife? And he'll say, well, yes. And then how does that actually feel? And turn it around. And he might see that the statement might not be true. The problem when you try to pull that into non-duality is we start off with the presupposition that no statements are absolutely true. So sensations aren't really that great a guidepost. If you're guiding someone in Liberation Unleashed and you say, what comes up when I tell you there's no self? We're stating a truth. The people can have a bad feeling about it, which is kind of like backwardsville. And the thing I would get at with James is, James, when you say, I have this feeling, what I would point out is not the nature of the feeling, but that it is your feeling. That statement is not true. It is not your feeling. It's just a feeling. So when we say everything's more, I mean, on the ultimate level, nothing is true. We can't actually know reality. So sensations don't really prove one thing one way or the other. So when you use this sensation in your chest, I have a feeling, and you use that as evidence for the existence of this separate character, James, that's false evidence. Do you see what I'm saying, James?
Yeah, no, I get it. I get what you're saying, but that leaves me with the conundrum
Good.
that, like, what I'm looking for is an absence. Yeah.
I want you to be absent. Conundrum is exactly what I'm shooting for here. I want you to know nothing. And you're looking good on that because you're showing doubts about anything. And that's a good sign, actually, because confusion is the first sign of seeing that you can't really know anything. You have to go through kind of a stage of wondering before you see that you, on an absolute level, you can't know anything. So just and the other question I have for you is, a couple of weeks ago, I think I talked to you about knowing, and you seem to have a problem with that. Do you even understand what knowing is? You say you know that feeling.
The way I would define it is sometimes there seems to be an instinctual feeling about something. Now, whether that feeling is right or wrong, you know, you get the sort of everything about you seem to think that something is true. You know, your body, your mind, everything. You go, oh God, I know this is true. That's what I think it is, but I'm waiting for you to say something different.
Well, a couple of weeks ago, you said you went to a friend's house to have a cup of coffee or something. When that cup of coffee came out, did you know what it was?
Yes.
All right. So before the cup of coffee came out, you knew what a cup of coffee was, didn't you?
Yes.
All right. So in 1 minute before that cup of coffee came out, you knew what a cup of coffee was, didn't you?
Yep.
5 minutes before that cup of coffee came out, you knew what a cup of coffee was, didn't you?
Yep.
So in the 5 or 10 minutes before the cup of coffee came out, you were sitting there knowing in every moment that went by what coffee was, didn't you?
Yes.
All right, that's knowing. I was just kind of, do you see what I'm pointing you here, that knowing is a constantly occurring condition of what the world is?
This is difficult.
No, it's simple. That's why you keep trying to overlook it.
Okay.
You
Okay.
just
It's
admitted
simple that
you know what knowing is. You are aware, and you know that you're aware, don't you?
yes.
So you know that you are aware right now.
Yes.
Okay. Now, do you understand that just the simple knowing awareness doesn't need the thought train to exist?
Yep.
Can you separate out knowing awareness as that which knows and look at thoughts objectively?
No.
The thought, I am James, put it up on the board.
Yep.
Can you look
What
at that
happened?
thought knowing what it is?
Yes.
Do you see that thought as an object?
Yes.
Okay. The sensation in your chest, which you seem to think proves something, you know of that sensation in your chest, don't you?
Yes.
Okay. Is the knowing and the sensation The sensation is another object, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, so there is the knowing and the sensation, a simple duality. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, take another thought. What's the most troubling thought you have? A self-critical thought.
I should stop eating sugar.
Okay, put that up on the board.
Okay.
Okay, you know of that thought, I should stop eating sugar, don't you?
Yep.
Okay. Does that thought, simply because it says I should stop eating sugar, does that thought actually have an identity?
Nope.
In other words, if you take away the ID from identity, it's an entity. Is that thought in and of itself any type of entity?
I would say a thought is an entity, yes.
Okay, that's important. Now,
Yeah.
so what you're saying is, in a sense, is that thought is alive, aren't you?
Ooh. No, I don't think an
Well, then,
entity has to be alive.
well, let's just say for the moment that it does. Does that thought have an identity of its own?
No.
Does the thought, I should stop eating sugar, know anything about your past?
The thought itself, no.
Does it have any imagination of where your future is going?
Nope.
Does it have the power to make you eat sugar or not eat sugar?
Well, it definitely doesn't have the power not to, because I still do. So no, it doesn't.
So if you were to stop eating sugar, there would be no consequences from that thought, would there?
If I stopped eating sugar, no, there wouldn't be. No.
Okay, so do you still see that that thought, I should stop eating sugar, is just another object arising in your consciousness?
No, it's definitely an object arising in my consciousness. Yes, but there
Okay.
does feel as though there's consequences if I do eat sugar from that thought.
Okay. Any other thought that you put up on that board, would it have the similar characteristics that they are objects? Doesn't matter which one you write up on that board. Is it still an object?
Yes.
And you will know of that thought on that board as an object, will you not?
Yes.
So if you sit here right now and take every thought about you, every self-referential thought, and put it up there one at a time or all at once, you know that all of those thoughts are objects, don't you?
Yes.
So as you sit right now, you are knowing.
Okay.
And as you sit right now, is that knowing continuous?
Yes.
The various thoughts that come and go on that board, are they each individual thought, it comes and goes, right?
Yes.
So thoughts are not continuous, are they?
No.
So you, this knowing, is always here and always knowing of various objects that are coming and going. Is that correct?
That is.
So if I told you to pick, if I said you have to pick an identity right now, what identity would you pick? Knowing, which is there all the time, or thoughts which are coming and going, which is solid?
Yeah, if I had a completely free choice, I would pick knowing.
Okay. How does that feel?
Fine.
Okay. Well, it's better than not fun. It's better than,
Yes, I
it's
agree.
better than, do you feel any fear from seeing that?
No. Oops. No, no fear.
Do you feel anything changes by seeing that?
I felt slightly, there was a feeling of being slightly calmer, but no, nothing really changed.
Okay. Calmer's a good sign. Now, all I would suggest is that this is an exercise that it almost has to be ongoing, but because you will get moments when you actually see and lock in on what I'm talking about. When you have freight train, when you have troubling thoughts are the best ones to work with during the week, just stop and put it up there and see it as an object and try to just notice what is noticing it. Because the noticing is the important part, not the actual thought itself, or not the sensation that comes and goes. The objects aren't important. The objects aren't you. It's like, well, everybody, Vince says it all the time. Just the noticing is what's important. Notice what is noticing. You want to try that for a while?
I will try that for a while and let you know how it goes.
Great.
I'd like to add something to that, James, on what Paul was saying. So I want to ask you a question. Do you think that the knowing that you know you are, apart from those thoughts on the wall, do you think the knowing is a self?
Yes, I think I'm identifying with that. Yes.
So that's why you think there's still a self, because you're aware of the knowing and you have it confused with a self.
If, as everybody is saying, the self isn't the knowing, then yes, I have them confused or squashed together or whatever. Yes.
That's it.
Jenny, this is kind of an exercise within the boundaries of duality. You see what I'm saying? That
Well, the reason I'm
frequently
saying
people
this,
go to the people frequently go from the little contracted self first to a bigger sense of self, which falls away easily later. It's just most people, the purpose of the exercise is to get people to see and get James to see that he is not the content of his thoughts. Whether you're within the guidelines of non-duality or duality, that is the fundamental confusion with people that come in, as they are identified as their thoughts. They cannot separate themselves and see that thoughts are objects. And in the word self, it doesn't trouble me that he sees it as a self right now, because if he sees that on a permanent basis, it is a self with very little strength of identity. It falls away easily in later inquiry. That's why I try to stay away from non-dual, because non-duality has its own confusion, whereas proper introduction to non-duality is first figure out duality properly. Divide it into the fiction of subject and object first. Get that clear. And if that's clear with people, non-duality as reality will generally close in on itself anyway. The subject-object dichotomy collapses anyway. They do that in several of the schools in Vedanta are completely dualistic schools. And there's lots of people who wake up from it. It's just that when people struggle, like James is struggling with non-duality, with many people struggle with non-duality, it really is a fundamental understanding of what they are not, which is the content of their thought. You see what I'm saying? So it doesn't bother me that he still kind of identifies that as a self. It's a very, even if he has that fiction, it's not something that I would worry about in the first stages. You know, you can't jump to the top of the ladder really without taking step 1, step 2, step 3. And I think that's one of the limitations of the whole non-dual movement is they tend to try to jump people up to the top of the ladder without just saying, what are you? What exists here, which is just a sense of aliveness, and what you are not, which is all of that thought train that talks trash all the time. But
I have a
Yeah,
question, Paul.
I think that's a,
Okay.
go ahead.
right,
Okay. This knowing, yeah,
hmm
these are all stories and these are my memories, but I've just got to go there for the moment. Okay. There's been
Okay.
times in my past where I felt I knew something, you know, just not intellectually, I hadn't read a book. I just felt I knew something. And then I found out later that it wasn't right. And yet my whole being, everything about me felt that something was true. I assume then that isn't the same thing as the knowing you're talking about.
But whether it was a true statement or not, you were aware of the fact of its existence, were you not? We're not talking about truth and falsity. We're only talking about, do you know of its existence? The statement, the moon is actually purple, is false. I'm not,
Yeah.
you may believe that at one time. I'm not asking about whether it's true or false. Knowing awareness is simply knowing that that statement is there. It's not about
Okay,
truth
yeah.
or false. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Knowing
So even
awareness
though
doesn't know true or false. It only
Yeah.
knows that something is there and that it has a known label. It may be false. You may believe the moon is purple. That label, the
Yeah.
purple moon, may be false. And that may be corrected. The point is, you know that it is either a purple moon or a belief that a moon is purple. And that's an important distinction. But truth or
So even
falsity
though
is
I
not
felt
what knowing awareness is
Yeah.
pointing to.
So even though I felt everything about me was saying something was true, I thought my mind, my body, everything, the fact that I was aware of that shows that was an object rather than the subject. Yeah.
Right. The knowing is just identifying its presence, not identifying truth or falsity.
Yeah.
And getting
Thank you.
hung up in truth or falsity is what causes so much confusion. Just knowing those thoughts, whether they're beliefs or truisms or false or true, knowing that they exist, that's knowing awareness, just simply that and nothing else. So take truth and falsity out of it. And that's why I say, when you look at thought, I am a self, I am James, I'm just trying to get you to look at it, knowing that that thought is there. But the knowing that that thought is there doesn't prove that it is a true thought. Knowing that the fact that the fact that it's written on the board that the moon is purple, just knowing that is there is the point. It doesn't matter that the moon is or is not purple. It's just knowing that it's there. It's hard to separate it out, I know, and people have a lot of trouble with this, but
Well,
it's
my
just an
trouble with
exercise.
this, my trouble with this would be not so much, well, it doesn't feel like sorting it out. Okay, so literally everything, and I use the word literally in its true sense, literally everything that I know is an object, but how do I then go about selecting between the objects? Like if I want to do something or
Same way you have
achieve
been.
something. Very badly.
Well, badly is a judgment, and
Yes.
there is really, judgment is another point of view. I believe this is good. I believe this is bad. The fact that the thought good or bad comes up doesn't mean that it means anything. It's not your judgment. It's just a thought comes up, says this is good, this is bad. I mean, how else could anything come up? You have no control over it anyway. Why would you judge it? Judgments are true or false, and that's not what I'm pointing to. Just that you know that they are judgments. And you see the silliness. If there is no self, there can be no judgment, no opinion. Things just as they are. You're just an observer. It's just an exercise to start you noticing that you're lost in stories. That's all. That's, if you just start doing that, you'll go a long way towards separating all this stuff out.
So I'd like to add a nail or two to James's coffin here. So it seems to me like you've got it pretty clear that the existence of a thought is just the existence of a thought, right? You put it up on the blackboard, the thought has no volition. I think when Paul was talking about it being an entity, he was referring to an entity with volition. And so a thought is an entity without volition. It just is a bit of chalk on the board when it's written down.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd like to add that and it's already been done, but I want to clarify it. I want to make it really, really obvious that feeling that you've got is no different to the thought. It is also just an object, right? Because feelings result from thinking. Feelings are a response to thought. Right now, we can go deeper and we can say that the feeling is a sensation plus stories. Right? And now those stories may or may not be conscious, or they may or may not be accessible consciously. Right? A lot of stories are subliminal, you know, they're subconscious, if you like. We don't remember them now. We just respond to them because they became habit a long time ago. But still, there was a story there that created that feeling. And so it's obvious, if you look at it that way, that when you put the feeling up on the blackboard or on the table or whatever you want to imagine, that it has no more validity about the truth than your thoughts do. You get that?
Yeah.
You're nodding like you
I mean,
get...
where I am with all this now is the story I've got currently is there's a blackboard up on the wall, and I can take everything I think, feel, sensations, everything, stick them all up on the blackboard. And the only thing that's left here is whatever that knowing is. That's all that's left, because everything else can go over there on the blackboard.
Right. So that's great. That sounds pretty good to me. So like Paul says, let's temporarily identify with that knowing, right? Yeah. What that does is it removes any identification with an imagined self. Can you get that? You can't identify with the knowing and some conjured up idea of a self. Both together, you can't.
I'm laughing now because I can think I can feel the thoughts and everything wanting to go, well, no, this knowing is obviously what really is James. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's what, yeah.
But James is on the board.
I know.
Knowing is knowing. And it's not really
Yeah.
a self, but you can call it a self right now if that makes you feel comfortable. People frequently need a landing spot. But James is strictly on the board. He's an
Yep.
autobiographical character in a book. That's all. He's
Yep.
an action figure. You see
Yeah,
that?
no, I can see it, but as I
Okay.
say, as soon as I put that, there's still something in me that wants to cling on. That's the only way I can describe it. Yes,
Yeah.
I get it. I get what you're saying, and it makes perfect sense. And I strip everything out, but it's still,
So
I'm still going to my head, and it's still me saying it's me stripping it out. You with me? There's still something desperately trying to cling on.
can you put that amorphous blob of whatever it is that you don't know out on the board as well? That bit that's wants to cling on, can that also, does it actually belong out there on the board?
Yeah,
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
it does belong out there, but
Yeah,
it
it's
doesn't want to
sticky,
go.
isn't it? It's got tendrils
It
that
is.
kind of, yeah, I know.
Yep.
I know. You remind me of me, you know. I went to a non-dual meetup a couple of times back when I was a seeker with Sailor Bob in Melbourne, and I just came away so frustrated because they couldn't answer, or they wouldn't answer my questions, and I just, my mind was working exactly like yours is, I think, you know. It just could not break away from the tendrils of whatever was there that was just hanging on. Yeah, I get how you feel, you know. I get that level of frustration that's there. Yeah, for sure.
And
James,
thank you all for keep chopping at the roots.
yeah, James, I'd just like to
Yes,
come
Alan.
back. I'd just like to come back to what Paul said about noticing. And there was something that Elad said that if we can just all ponder it, because no matter whether we haven't woken up or how deep we are into awakening, it still applies. And he simply said that there's more in here than we're giving ourselves time to notice. It's the mind is looking for an answer. We want to get an answer, but we just have to be willing to give ourselves time to notice. When the confusion kicks in, when that whatever's holding you kicks in, just give yourself time to sit and notice.
Yes.
I'd like to yeah, okay, it doesn't matter. I'll do it anyway, I guess. I wanted to clarify I've forgotten her name now. I know it. I've just got a mental block on it. The lady that was here and she's gone, that asked about the body yes and the body no thing.
Was that Maureen?
Yes, yeah, it was Maureen, yes. And it's an important issue, and I recognise in myself it's my tendency to be a version of a racist, I suppose, and that is I generalise things, and so it's equally true what she was saying. You know, you can trust the body yes, body no response to be telling you something that is, we say that is true, but we say, but put it this way, it's going to tell us something that we believe, but we don't know that we believe. That's what it can do. Or, you know, and as I say, we can notice things subliminally, and it in the body can respond to that. But at an ultimate level, at a deeper level, our feelings are still very much tied in with our conditioning and our thinking. So, you know, at that level, in that way, they can't be trusted. So you can trust them under it's context. Certain contexts that they're more trustworthy. They're certainly more trustworthy than your thoughts, but at an ultimate level or a really fundamental level, no, they're not trustworthy. Yeah. But anyway. So who else can we pick on? Who else has got something they want to give James a rest for a moment? He needs to kind of sit with what we've done for a while, let it sink in. Yeah.
Just while you're deciding who to pick on, Vince, I'd like to come back to something that Paul Simpson said last week. Paul, you held up a book, which was The Direct Path by
Greg Good.
Greg Good. I don't know how many of you have gone and gotten that book in the meantime. I have. I know somewhere in the hundreds of books that I've got it somewhere. I can't find it, so I went and I bought it again. I'm just drawn to point out that book helps us with nuances of noticing that perhaps we haven't noticed before. Would that be true, Paul?
Oh, yeah. I didn't find the book until, I don't know, 6 months after I gated, and it brought, I'm trying to figure out how to say it. Yes, you said it very well. More subtle levels of noticing. It's kind of a belief buster, for a slang term for it. The simplest of things which you would have thought were foundational are not.
Yeah.
And it just kind of tears apart notions of reality that are underlying, just seeing through the illusion of self. You say, hallelujah, got it, been there, got the t-shirt. There's a lot more beyond that. It gets even more and more subtle, even down to just the level of just existence. It actually, some of those exercises were, some of them you just have to close the book and just say, wow, I got to kind of step back from this.
Absolutely.
That's just too much shit in one day.
Your comment about getting the t-shirt, it resonates because yeah, I've got it, and then the next bit says, oh, hang on, I can't take this. I thought I had it, but there's stuff that I've never even thought about looking at.
Yeah, that's a great book. It'll clear away a lot of cobwebs that you don't even know you have, and that's the ones that really limit you in life.
So
what was the name of it?
The Direct Path.
What was it?
The Direct Path by Greg Good.
Cool. Okay.
So I'd just like to highlight, for me, as I've gone back to it, that it's just such an essential tool, if you will, in helping us notice. If we're serious, you'll have a good look at it.
Is my audio back on?
Yeah.
One of the best ones in there is, if you get the soft cover, which I don't even know if there is a hard cover, is one about belief.
And there is a Kindle version too, if you want it immediately.
Well, this says it's about belief. It's on page 139 in the book, and it's all about how thought and feeling, how a belief is formed by the combination of thoughts and feelings that come up about the thought. And the fact that we may attribute truth, whether right or wrong, we may attribute truth to a thought that feels good, or falsity about a thought that feels bad. And I'm oversimplifying it. The exercise is very effective for seeing, for kind of decoupling feelings as evidence of what thoughts, truth, or falsity. It's probably the most helpful exercise in the book. But I mean, the whole book is just great.
On
And
that note, that's what happens here is actually that there's like a belief that a feeling that feels really bad is true.
It can be
Because
reversed. That's the point. The feeling doesn't prove truth or falsity necessarily. It can have it can, like Vince said, it can point to a belief in something, but the belief in something doesn't necessarily make it true or false. The feelings are a good indicator that you're looking at a belief. Now, truth or falsity is shaky in there.
yeah. Yeah.
So a really big thing that you just said, Paul, that I just loved about how the combination of how the feeling validates the thought, and that's how a belief is formed. What I really loved about that was that James was nodding his head as you were saying it.
Yeah. It's a foundational problem, for lack of a better word, in
But
pointing
I
no
was
self. People
taking
use.
James's head nodding as like he had just discovered something in that.
Go ahead, James. Speak.
Well, no, I just realised it was another thing to throw up on the blackboard.
It
And
is.
it was,
That's great.
yeah, and the one that freaks me out in that book is the one where it says movement doesn't exist. The exercise about there's no such thing as movement. I'm really stuck on that one at the moment.
Yeah, well, that's kind of a comparison. Have you ever sat down and played like one of those video games where you're driving a race car?
Yeah.
And what the kind of the point of it is that you're not necessarily moving through experience. You're a fixed location, if there is such a thing, and experience is flowing through you as consciousness.
Yeah.
It's an interesting little exercise.
Definitely.
Yeah, sometimes
It'll open your eyes.
we're invited to jump a little bit too far. And
Yeah.
makes it a bit tricky. Yeah.
Yeah, that's getting
That
ahead
one
of
about
ourselves
movement,
here.
that involves time and depth perception and a whole lot of things that are also illusions. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, be
Yeah, see
freaked.
through better one first.
be patient. Yes, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Sounds like there's more in there than you're giving yourself time to notice, James.
He's wanting to race ahead.
Definitely.
Well, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's an interesting one, James. Again, we're jumping ahead with this one, but eventually you'll put even that knowing, that awareness, you'll put that up on the blackboard, and then what you're left with is absolutely nothing.
The mystery.
And that's great. That is really, really good, that one. It's nothing to be frightened of, but it is really, really big. Yeah. Anyway, there, one step at a time. Claire, have you been here before? Maybe you have, and we haven't spoken. Tell us where you're up to on this journey.
Hi, Vince. Yeah, I was on once before, about a fortnight ago, speaking to you then. There is fear here. I have been noticing my thoughts or stories more and more. And one thing I heard brought sadness today of how there is nothing to be found, that there is just this. And although I'd heard that many times before, this time the me heard more clearly, I think, that that there's nothing to be gained, nothing to be got, and there is just this. And I'd been seeking and hoping, and that I got a glimpse of maybe that the me doesn't have something to look forward to that I had been looking forward to. Yeah, I'm back to the fear again.
So let's just stay with that fear for a moment. Tell me, is that about just being the center of attention right now and speaking with all of us?
The second time was, yes.
Yeah. The first time was what? That there was no hope of. Hope for?
The me experiencing awakening.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Oh, gotcha. So the fear that you're going to be stuck somewhere.
Is it like no hope for a better moment?
Yes. Yeah. That I've been hearing, there's just this, there is no hope for a better moment. Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
That
So
I had been hoping.
This is not so wonderful for you.
Yes. I had mentally made this an idea, a story, that this was going to be my project to achieve this. And more story that I distract so much that I'm not practicing meditation, and I'm not working as hard as I think I should be working on this.
Okay. Good one. Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, Don works really hard at this and it's got him nowhere. Yeah, it's a bit of a trick, isn't it? So really this is an interesting quandary, right? Because you do apparently see that there is just this. And yet that gives you a feeling of dread almost, that, wow, if this is what it is, it's pretty not at all like the literature promised me. Where's the bliss and wonderfulness of it all? Yeah. So yeah. So boy, if I could get James to see that there is only this, I'd be laughing. I think that'd be fantastic. Yet for you, it's not a great place. Interesting, isn't it? Yeah. So does this need to change?
Well, I think all I'm speaking from is the me when I say that.
Mm.
There was a tiny second of a glimpse of I'm not there.
Yeah.
Once, and a couple of days ago. That wasn't mediated by anything, because previously there were experiences with psychedelics of it being a different being, or it being a universal consciousness looking through my eyes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when under those, when that happened, this was pretty wonderful, eh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the 2 days ago was ordinary.
Was what?
Was ordinary. 2 days ago.
Ordinary, yeah.
Just as I was driving along, just for a second, there was experience. And I realized a second later that I wasn't in that experience.
Mm-hmm. Great, yeah. Well, I say great, but part of you was seeing the world, your experience was a bit ordinary.
Yeah.
Even though, yeah, got it. Yeah. You know how your eyes have got rods and cones, so for example, when the light level drops low enough of an evening and you're outside, you start to see things in grayscale, color, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when the light intensifies, the other part of your eyes kick in and you start to see color. Yeah. Well, that's a good metaphor for this, right? So what you were seeing the other day when you dropped the self, this was with the low light perception. So that's why it looked pretty ordinary. But I promise you that when the light intensifies, you'll be blown away by the amazingness of the color and the detail that's there. And it's the same this, it's just the different perception. So, yeah. But I mean, I'm telling you that, right, I've got to help you discover it. That's as a guide, that's the best thing to do. How can we help you discover that this is fucking wonderful? It is just a blowout that what is there. And it's just the perception of it. Yeah, that's different. I don't know how to give you that gift. I wish I could just reach the screen and offer it to you, but yeah. Oh dear, somebody help me. Who's got some ideas? How can we get Claire to discover
sometimes I think it's important not to get too attached to some terminology that we use to communicate. For another person, it doesn't have to be just this. If you know what I mean, we get hung up on the words, because we have a concept of what this is. So we're like, it's just this. And our concept of this is not necessarily so great or what we want. So there's a belief, you know what I'm saying? Because the words are really just symbols. Everything's just a symbol in a sense. So if that symbol isn't a good pointer for you, I think that's why we seek, because we're looking for better pointers that resonate with us, you know. So sometimes maybe don't be so, you know, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Making it the word, some
does
words for one
actually, yes, thank
person
you.
don't resonate with another person. So you don't necessarily have to use that terminology in order to describe something that's indescribable. Yeah.
Okay.
So tell us,
Yeah.
Claire, what is your idea of what this is? And when we use the word this, I mean, it's a great word for me. I love it. Yeah. I see it in capitals and bold and with an exclamation mark at the end of it. It's different to you, I guess. Yeah.
Will it change slightly as Judy said that? I think it was Judy speaking that reality is, I suppose, what I think it is, that I'm seeing or would be seeing reality without mental filters, that
Yeah. So
without a story.
can you accept that when you see it in the grayscale, so to speak, that metaphor, that you are using mental filters to filter out all of the light that makes it grayscale for you?
Well, I'm thinking of an example from last year of where there was an annoying sound about once every half an hour in my cabin that I'd moved into. And I sat with that sound looking at where it was coming from for months. And eventually I went up and I switched a button that I thought was not the source of the thing. And of course it was the source of the thing. And I had been staring at it, but my mental filter was telling me it wasn't. That's maybe not exactly the type of example you were thinking of, but it's the first one that came to mind.
I think that's pretty good. It's a good analogy.
Claire, I assume that you had a story about enlightenment, because I know I did. Yeah, that it's going to be when it strikes, it's all this bells and whistles and fireworks, and the world is wonderful. Yeah, and you've just been told by several people in here that that isn't the story. Yeah, and then that story's dropped away, and that doesn't make you feel great because you had this story like you were going to win the lottery. Yeah. But if you can see that as a story and that drops away, also whatever's going on in your life that you're not particularly happy with at the moment is a story. Yeah. It feels real and it's kicking you in the, for want of a better analogy, for a male analogy, it's kicking you in the nuts. Yeah. And that's making you feel bad. And the idea of the lottery made you feel good. And where I'm trying to get with this is actually both stories drop away. You don't only lose this dream of winning 100 million on the lottery, you can also lose all the stuff that's making you feel down. Because they're all stories.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, that feels better.
Damn, James.
Yeah, he keeps doing that.
Golly. That was damn fine work.
Flattery will get you everywhere.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Except here. I know.
But I mean, they're all making me feel wonderful, which is another story. Yeah. But you know, I went through what in fact, some of me is still going through what you're going through, because there's still a part of me that wants that lottery win. Yeah. But it's, you know, there's lots of other things in life apart from the lottery. I mean, you know, when you said you had that time, was it a couple of weeks ago, when you had that moment that you felt Either did the self drop away? You described it. I can't remember exactly how you described it, but there was a moment you had. Yeah. What was life like in that moment?
Yeah. Peaceful. Although I was driving at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but my brain wasn't running around.
Okay, so I'll say something to you that my guide in LU said to me when I had one very small moment, like you're saying, and I said, like, well, I got through a really rough day quite calmly. And my guide said, well, if that's it, is that enough? And yeah, it is. If you can go through life peaceful and calm, or whatever it was you felt in that moment, and that's all it will ever be, that's still
That
not
would be
bad.
great. Yeah, that's true.
I was going to say, what is actually wrong with just this?
At that time, I had physical feelings of yeah, a bit tired, a bit hungry, that kind of, not dramatic. I was trying not to think about the fact that I was on my own. Other than I have my dog with me, which is incredible. But I do spend a lot of time just me and the dog now, and that had been a good feeling largely when I started living on my own over nearly a year ago, but it's starting to creep into my mind as something I want to push away mentally, that story.
But right now it's just this, isn't it?
Sorry?
Right now it's just this.
Yes.
What's actually wrong with just this right now?
Right now. I have some discomfort in my nose. But no, nothing is wrong.
So if each moment is just this, I'll leave you with that.
I think I had a second there now of feeling I'd be bored. I have such a massive habit of keeping my mind occupied. I even fight sleep every night. my mind does go blank sometimes with fear, but that's not quite what's happening now. Just trying to relax into the now.
That's all you have to do.
It could be helpful to try to observe, you know, when you're having these thoughts, to not attach I to it and just see what that feeling's like. I have too many thoughts, or I have this. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Where you go, this is what's that thought went, you know, there's a thought that there's aloneness, or there's a thought that there's too much quiet, instead of I think it's too quiet, or I am alone. It's just a nice little thing you can do as an exercise, and just go, oh, I'm saying I again. And you start doing that, especially when there's lots of thoughts. Well, is it I? It's not really an I, it's just something something came up, and I'm saying it's I. When is it? So it's just helpful to do. You know.
It's a great exercise.
And
you can put it on.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Draw a line down the middle of a page, and on the left you can go, I am sitting, I am thinking. And then on the other side of the page, you can just go, thinking, sitting. So sitting is happening, thinking is happening. And the exercise, you observe the difference in the way you feel as you do that. And you will find a distinct difference between I am sitting and sitting is happening. Feel different. Yeah. So you can do it just mentally as well. And just get that and just observe the feeling that comes up, as you'd say. Yeah. Yeah.
And you don't attach an I to the feeling either, you know. And it's pretty powerful as an exercise. It was for me anyway. And I still use it sometimes when if I get caught into a story, I go, oh yeah, because it's a habit. Your body's got lots of habits. You know, it's just like if you want to stop biting your nails or something, or a habit. It's like a habit. Yeah.
I started that with I.
Yeah.
Mentally prepared to come on to this meeting. Trying to rehearse the language, including not using I. And then felt like I was cheating by faking it till I made it.
Well, no, when you're talking to other people, you use I because it's a symbol of It's just I is a symbol to communicate, but it's mostly an exercise you do for yourself. You can't go to the shop and go,
okay, all right,
I want coffee.
There's no Advaita cops here. We killed all of them.
We use I, it's all, you can say me, you can say all those words. It's just a good exercise.
Okay.
And it can do a lot.
But to me, this is it, and it sucks, is seeking. So I don't know if that's bullshit or it doesn't make sense to you, but for me, that means I'm resisting something.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's valuable to consider that here at these meetings with both people who are forgive the language, which we have to do. For people who are already awake to whatever degree, and people who are still seekers, there's an assumption here that I take, that people are not going to take things personally. Right? That the old, I can say whatever comes. I don't have to think about what I'm going to say. What I open my mouth and out comes stuff, and I don't feel apologetic at all. You know, it's authentic stuff. And even if I'm faking it, I'm authentically faking it, if that happens. So everything's permissible here. There's, you know, what will jump on is inauthenticity, if that's a word. The lack of it. But talking from experience is really valuable. That's where the value is. And you can say anything, and people aren't going to take it personally, because if we're not already beyond taking things personally, we want to be. We're getting. So, you know, you say whatever you like, no worries. And if you feel afraid, okay, that's a legitimate thing. That can be good, eh? I mean, you feel alive when you're afraid, at least. Yeah, that's pretty good. And whatever it is that you're feeling, whatever it is that you say, it's grist for the mill, so to speak. It's something we can use to work on, you know. So I love it that you're here. I love it that you're here in big time. And I don't mind that you're afraid. I'm not concerned about that, you know, that if you look at that fear, it'll come and go. It'll fade in and out. Even as we speak, it'll change, you know. But it's telling you something about what's going on. And that's great. That's an opportunity. Yeah. Love it. Everything that comes up is good. There is no such thing as bad, if you like. That's just all good. Everything. Yeah.
Something I was thinking, particularly when I think it was when Paul spoke, something I've realised in the last few days is there is nothing wrong with this and how it is. It's our relationship to it.
Yeah.
And when you realise that, it kind of automatically turns round, and you just know that you've got to go back in, because there isn't anything wrong with this. It's only our thoughts about this.
Yeah. And I thought my metaphor about the light was pretty brilliant too.
Yeah, it was very good. Thank you. Yeah, I noticed how massive the difference of how I feel about work is when I go there as an employee or when I go there as a 0-hour contract person. I feel like I'm going to help out. I don't feel the weight of expectation for some reason that way. And there was, although I've been an employee for the last couple of years with the same place, I went in so exhausted one day that I initially stressed out about it, and then decided I was just going to go with, no matter what came along, I was just going to accept everything and not have any expectations or preferences, or try not to. And the day went grand, much better than usual.
A perfect example of perspective, eh?
Yeah, along
so
those lines, Claire. No, go on.
No, just that was one of the ways that I'm aware that there are mental filters, and that I can reframe things.
Yeah.
Along those lines, Claire, you know, when everybody's saying to you, or they said to me, they say to everybody, this is it and this is okay. I had to get to grips with what the word okay meant. And for me, what it turned up meaning is things will happen. You know, you'll drop a bottle of milk and you'll break the milk, you know, eggs will crack, you'll fall over and bang your knee, whatever, you know, trivial examples, pick any example you like. And all okay means for me is, oh, well, now I have to deal with that. As opposed to, oh my God, life has gone wrong and this isn't fair and it shouldn't happen and it's not my fault and why does this happen to me? You know, and all that stuff that goes on. For me, part of this is letting all that go and just go, oh, well, you know, stick a Band-Aid on it. Do what you have to do.
Yeah.
James, I'd like to point out to you a couple of things that you've said that are really relevant here, you know. You said give up on the idea of winning the lottery. Well, I've won the lottery. You will win the lottery. And you're okay. God, how boring is that? Now I have to deal with it. Fuck. Listen, there's some, look, it's brilliant. I dropped the bottle of milk and it's all over the floor. That's great. That is brilliant. What happened? What was going on? Where was I when that happened? It's telling me stuff. It's giving me an opportunity. It's really good. Really, really good. And guess what? I've even got time to consider that while I clean it up.
Yeah.
So cleaning it up is good too.
Thank you, Vince. I really felt the excitement of that, just as you said it. And even though my last half an hour at work the other night was cleaning up somebody's vomit, I didn't feel that way at the time. But yeah, I know that can be there. That I had been using accept it as if I had chosen it this way.
Yes. Yeah.
But that can be quite a grin and bear it as well. And I feel I have an awful lot of grit and stubbornness that keeps me doing things that I don't like. Although I know that's a story. But I can also protect myself from being aware of my unhappiness. I've done that a lot in that even just being really bored in a job, and I spent a lot of time telling myself that I was being lazy and I wasn't trying hard enough. And then when I got a tiny bit of perspective from it, I was like, actually, I was bored, really. It's still a story, I know. So I'm trying not to do that.
Yeah. But no, don't try not to do that. You miss a valuable point when you try not to do that, you know. Firstly, trying not to do it doesn't work. You know, you basically you just make it stronger when you resist it. So, you know, don't try not to do it. Look for the value in it. You know, it's been a while since I've seen vomit on the floor, but if I remember right, it was pretty psychedelic in color. It was quite amazing to look at, you know, and the smell, wow, the strength of the smell was a blowout. I couldn't believe how strong it smelled, you know. There was some really, really great, beautiful stuff in that vomit. And this has given you an opportunity to pause something else while you clean it up. Isn't that good? Yeah. You know, there's value there. There's value in everything. We don't have to just put up with anything. You know, it's all. Yeah. What about the opportunity that arrives when you've got to wait in a line at the checkout of the supermarket or somewhere else? You've got to wait. You know, what an opportunity! Isn't it great? You know, you can just take a breath and you can just, for the first time, if when you weren't waiting, you were too busy to notice what was around you. And all of a sudden you can see the person in front of you, you can see what they're wearing, you can notice the pattern on the floor, you can, things that you would never have noticed wouldn't happen unless you were forced to wait. Great, everything is great. There is no bored, ordinary thing, and boredom itself, that's an interesting one. Boredom is you think boredom is not active. Boredom is really, really active. There's a lot going on in boredom, and it's avoidance stuff, big avoidance stuff. So another opportunity for you to see, you're faced with yourself in boredom in a way that you don't want to be. And that's an opportunity to see. I'll get down off my soapbox.
Oh, that's great.
And
Thanks.
even if it's not great, it's great. That's great.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a Tibetan monk. It's one of the higher ups at the Vedanta school in New York City. And when he was first becoming a monk, for years, his only position at the monastery was preparing rice for 50 people. That's it. That's all he did. And he looks back on the experience as one of his most valuable experiences in terms of the insights he gained, because the mind just really didn't have a chance to go anywhere other than just the task at hand. And the purpose was silencing the mind so that the realization could happen later. So like Vince and everybody else is saying, don't ever underestimate boredom. Every reality shows you things all the time if you just notice. Usually much better pointers than we could even give.
I have noticed something lately. It's there's this filtering happening to my thoughts and my feelings that's happened very subtle. Like I have like a judgmental thought, and there is this like hiding it from myself, and I catch myself like hiding a thought from myself, or rejecting a feeling or something like that. And today I felt this self-judgmental thoughts, and I said to myself, why I'm not giving these thoughts a space, and I give it to myself. I made it more dramatic than it needs to be, and I said all the thoughts that I want to say to myself, judging myself, insulting myself, and it was very funny.
Yeah, great. Those are moments that are just, wow, so valuable. Yeah. And and habitually we tend to overlook them really quickly. They're not big enough to form an impression sometimes. So we forget them almost as soon as they happen, or they don't actually get put into memory. But yeah, but every day there are these moments that we just by nature overlook. We're still as sophisticated as we've become over the last million years or whatever. We are still animals that have survival instincts operating, and those survival instincts highlight the negatives and the bads and the dangers in a big way, and we just overlook the good things. They don't even exist, the good things. We just walk past them. And a lot of what we're doing here is we wish amplifying is not the right word, but they become amplified. Those good things become amplified, and the bad things turn into good things. Yeah. How are you traveling, Will?
I don't really know. I think I feel, and it just changes so fast for me right now. It changes so fast. Sometimes I can feel really present and alive and in the moment. And sometimes I'm just caught up in like those issues that have grabbed me all my life, you know, they just come out of nowhere and I get caught. And I think that I'm beginning, I feel in the last couple of weeks to be less judgmental of myself and other people. There's a slight turning of the screw there that seems to be the whole idea of that we did the best we could at that moment in time, that's what happened and that's the way it is. That's very freeing, you know, because then you kind of lose that sense of regret. And I'm beginning to actually, I think I'm beginning to really experience that, you know, it's not like a belief or it's, you know, that I don't really have much, I don't have choice, you know, but I can lay the seeds now as best I can in the moment, in this present moment for the future maybe, but it's just laying the seeds and doing that is, I don't know if I'm making much sense, but I'm beginning to sense that like when I'm present, that it's just energy and sensations in my body and this sense of wanting to get home or wanting to finish work and stopping and feeling that that's just a sensation. And when I'm home on the sofa like I am now, it's just a sensation and it's nearly the same thing. It's kind of the same thing. So just beginning,
big discovery is happening.
Yeah, beginning to feel into that.
Yeah.
And very the boredom when it came up, like I don't want to feel into boredom. I know that. It's like I want, so that's why the slowing down is beginning is good. When Claire talked about, you know, that she was bored and stuff, I wanted to kind of ask like, what does being bored feel like? How does it, because I don't know what it feels like.
Yeah. That's a scary one too, because behind boredom is fear. Yeah. So I just want to ask you one question. When you get lost, you know, how that instantly happens so quickly and you're suddenly lost in things again, do you eventually realize that had happened?
I realize it, yeah. I'm realizing it faster and faster. I think.
Yeah, great. That's even better. Yeah. So it doesn't matter how long it takes for you to realize. That moment when you realize is the moment to celebrate. That's a big, very important moment. The moment that you realize, celebrate it. Have a laugh, have a chuckle. That's a good way to celebrate it.
Yeah, I'm doing that a little bit. I'm kind of laughing either out loud or internally.
Right.
I'm doing that a little bit, or else I'm just, you know, or else I'm just back, or else I feel alive and I'm looking at the buildings or hearing the sounds or whatever, and that feels good. You know, that feels good. So that's also kind of that's also a reward in itself, maybe. I don't know.
It is.
Yeah.
Good one. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, you know, I feel like since maybe last Sunday, the meeting here, which I thought was great. I really did. That maybe I open and close, you know, it seems to be a 2 or 3 week opening and then a couple of weeks I really kind of shut down and then I open. But I am doing, I know it doesn't come up here much, but I am doing some on my own, well, with the help of like not on my own, but like with like a workbook stuff, just doing small exercises with trauma and stuff. But they're really the same thing. It's just, you know, getting present. It's just about getting present, feeling safe, feeling the texture of the sofa, looking somebody, you know, looking at something, seeing it, connecting, you know, to the senses. And doing that, I feel like beginning a sense of safety, which I feel like I have to, otherwise it's just that on some level, it's okay to be here. It's okay to be here. Because a part of me obviously just keeps going somewhere else, you know, going somewhere else. So something, maybe, I don't know if I'm intellectualizing too much, but something is telling me on some level that it's not okay to be here because I go somewhere else. I go somewhere else.
Yeah, that's all conditioning. Yeah. So one thing that comes up is when things are not when you're not here, is there a feeling that that's wrong?
There still is not as much as there was, because like I said, I feel like I don't have any control over it. So I'm not, so there's not as much, but there is this, and it goes back to my mother and stuff, probably her mother and stuff like that. But there is this feeling of when I do get lost, a lot of the time it is, I've mentioned this before, a lot of the time it is the craving for attention or the craving for love on some level, or to be seen. So I am a little judgmental of myself for wanting that's such a deep, but it's a deep thing. It hasn't been addressed yet. And so I haven't felt it like there's something, because it hasn't, you know, I haven't gotten to that point yet. You know, it's a deep, it's a deep,
it'll happen.
You know, I want to get to it, but I suppose I got to go in stages. But that seems to be a deep.
That'll happen.
Yeah,
as you're ready. Yeah, that's right. As you become ready. And what about effort? You're putting effort into doing things. That can be another trap.
Yeah, less effort. Less effort, for sure. Less effort.
Allowing.
I went.
Yeah.
I went. I did an in-person retreat with Angelo in November, and it was 6 days. It was very intense, and there was so much effort. Now I did a lot of clearing up. I would imagine it was unbelievable energy, but there was so much effort and then I did an online one with him at the turn of the year, and I was much more gentle with myself. And there was a shift. There wasn't as much trying. It was more a gentleness and an ease and like kind of wash over me kind of feeling. And that felt better. It felt better. It felt more it felt more intuitively right.
Well, my feeling is that you're in a good place and it's working well for you. You know, it's all happening as it can. It is. Yeah, great. I like it.
Yeah. There's still this, you know, I still feel like the grasping, you know, I still feel it hasn't got to a point. It will get to a point when it gets to a point that, you know, I watch. You know, I never watched YouTube, and all I do is YouTube. It's crazy. It's like all these, and it feels like, you know, there's an endorphin rush, you know, when a new video comes in, or a new, like, I can't wait for the 6th feather to, like, there's this rush that this is going to fix me, you know, that this, and I might have a moment, a glimpse, but really, I know deep down that really I need to plug out and just feel what's going on.
It'll happen. Yeah. Oh, look, I can remember getting high on things like that. It was my time was before YouTube, but I used to get high on listening to Jed McKenna audio books and reading stuff and so on, you know, and I'd get really high because I felt close. It was right. There was this on the verge kind of feeling that it was imminent. I was going to get it. And I got really high on it. I get that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it'll happen until it doesn't. Yeah. It'll
And
drop out.
yeah, and one other thing, and this was with ear things. I was lying in bed the other night, and I get this sometimes, but this felt like, and there was Angelo was interviewing. I can't remember who he's interviewing, but he just said something, and I was kind of said something, and then I could feel like there was a real sense of no self. There was a real sense of no self, and it lasted maybe 5 seconds or something. But I wouldn't say it was comfort.
Yep.
There was something like here or whatever that was like, there was not, which was, there was space, but it wasn't like, I don't know if it was dread or fear, but there was something like, you know, I don't want to stay here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can be pretty scary. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I love it. I love it. That's that's a big indicator, you know, as well. Those moments, those seconds where that happens. Yeah, great. That's brilliant. Love it. Yeah. Yeah. How are you traveling, Kristen? You can talk while you drive?
I'm parked. I was driving, but now I parked. Oh, I appreciated what Will said. I'm just experiencing a lot of sensation right now. Tears.
Can you feel yourself resisting, holding back?
We can't hear you.
Even though it says you're not muted.
No, we can't hear you, Kristen. You're not muted, but your audio is not working. What a time for that to happen. Yeah. No, it's not working.
Maybe unplug your headphones.
Maybe unplug your headphones from your phone. It could be the mic on your headphones is not working.
No, they're not in. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You're muted again now, though.
Thought she pulled them just out of her ears.
unmute your phone. No, still muted. Ah, you're not. No, we still don't hear you.
What if I unplug the
Gotcha now.
power?
Yep, gotcha. Yeah.
Now you can hear me?
Yes.
Oh no, that's terrible because I have 5% or something, so I'm plugged into a power source. I just unplugged it.
Right.
Right. I'm gonna try plugging in to the power source one more time, and then if it's not a go, it's not a go. Okay, I plugged in. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can still hear you. Yeah.
Or, yeah, good. Okay, I plugged in. Okay. Well, there it is. Okay. Great. That was a great distraction from my sensation.
Yeah,
That was
that
awesome.
saved you from all of that,
I
didn't
got to
it?
get away from it.
Yeah.
It's still here. Yeah. The question was, am I resisting it? And I couldn't tell, but probably, probably. Yeah, I don't know if the sensation is resistance or like, actually there was, there wasn't as much image tied to it, and the image can be really, really, really strong. So I was going with that, like, oh, good, just raw sensation. Let's do that. Just feel it. Just feel it. Tears. Yeah. Yeah. Oh. 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 Well, the tears took the sensation to, more of a, it just shifted things a little. Yeah. I just had the thought, this doesn't have enough content. This is probably boring for you all.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
More tears.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Not really linking the tears to anything. It's not just like naturally linking. It's just, I have no idea. I mean, I could say some ideas, but they're just not clearly connecting.
And they
Yeah, almost like the
they don't
idea
have to be
via reach.
identified.
Yeah.
They can be just how can you put it? It can be just a cellular expression of something that we have no idea what it's about, and it doesn't matter.
it does feel like that, like cellular. So that would be a good word.
I found it interesting that you liked what Will said. Somehow I felt like you had identified with some of what Will was sharing as his experience. And then you've gone from that seemingly pleasant place into this place, which I'm not saying is unpleasant, but yeah, it just doesn't quite seem to fit with what Will was saying. So did that flip you into this? Do you think?
Did it flip me in? I liked what Will was saying. Maybe it wasn't, I can't say it wasn't the content, but I might say that maybe it wasn't even what was, I mean, this would not be wholly accurate either, because it was probably something that he said, but just that it was being said, just the safety to, well, maybe even that, the safety to experience, and maybe something that now I'm remembering, something that he said about just being here now, or that he was playing with that, just the safety to be here, and figuratively and
yeah. So I wonder, even it just occurs to me that I wonder if even just the safety of this group is enough for something to come up that you otherwise wouldn't allow out. Your initial response is probably the most accurate.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know for sure.
And that's okay too.
Yeah. Now maybe the sensations are back to a level of like, yeah, definitely I have I just noticed that I am judging the sensations. They're wrong.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kristen.
Yeah.
Kristen, when I feel you, which I love to feel you and be with you, you know, what comes to me is like, it's safe to just be exactly as I am. It's safe to just be exactly as I am.
Yeah. Sadness again. Oh. Yeah, thank you for the space.
Yeah. So now I get the feeling that those tears aren't from pain, but or maybe an exquisite kind of pain, a beautiful kind of pain, something really nice, something sweet about them. Would that be accurate?
I think that's accurate. Elemental. I don't know for sure. But something of what you're saying rings true, and something that Liz said, like just, well, where something that popped in when she said, just to be as I am. I don't know if the mind just does this as a natural inquiry, but I'll just say it anyway. It said, well, how am I? Or, you know, what is even that? How I am, just to be how I am. Liz is being safe to be how she is. How am I? Yeah, there's something in that, you know? I don't know what it is. Release, perhaps. It seems just like, that it's possible that it just will be revealed, that I just don't really know.
Yep.
I don't
Sure.
know.
Yeah, these things happen at their own pace, don't they? Yeah.
My mind will be sure to use that as judgment. I'll sure to judge that.
But you'll see that happen. I see that you'll see that happen. You've already shown me that you can see that happening. So when judgment happens, you see that it happens. And that's much more important than the judgment happening. Much more valuable.
Yeah, it's like the mind, I don't know what it is, something wants to take that and run with it. And at the same time, at its own pace, there seems to imply something there. Yeah, it's like there seems to imply something there, like it wasn't fast enough, that there's time. And then there's just this whole entanglement, like for lack of better, I don't know, entanglement that I'm not even sure if it exists. But whatever that whole thing is often running. Sort of, could be.
Yep.
Could be.
Yeah.
Like I don't even really know how to make sense of what you just said. It happens at its own pace. Like, what is it implying? I think the judgment here would be like, again, tying it back to sensation, just that there's something wrong. And just that there's something wrong.
And do you think there's something wrong about that?
That there would be something wrong?
Yeah. Yeah, not that there would be something wrong. Do you think there's something wrong about the fact that you think there's something wrong? I mean, it's a judgment, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a judgment do you then have a judgment about that judgment? And if you do you have a judgment about the fact that you had a judgment about the judgment? And if you do you think this, how far can we go?
It's funny. This is funny. I mean, I don't know, it might not be funny to anybody at all, but your original, I was like, wait a minute. I'm back at talk about pace, right? Talk about pace. I'm back at still trying to decode the verbiage. Everything happens or whatever you said at its own pace. Like I'm literally, yeah. I'm still like, I don't even know. And I'm like, I'm way back there. So talk about pace. I'm not even to the place where I can even know what that is, judgment to even inquire it, judgment about judgment about judgment,
Yeah, gotcha.
It's like, I'm still trying to even find how even this, what that even was, like what at own pace, and then it seemed to link up with a sensation. So I could say that's how slow I am. I don't even know, but there's like seems to be a conversation.
That was a good judgment. That you're slow. Yeah. Okay.
I don't even know.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
And that's okay. You know what? It was a totally nonsensical thing to say.
Which one?
The things will happen at its own pace.
Oh, okay. Nonsensical.
So,
See,
Kristen,
it's like, yeah.
tell us about the equanimity and the stillness that's here at the same time.
Tell us about which one? Let me just
The
say hear it again.
equanimity. Tell us about the feeling of equanimity or settledness or stillness that's here at the same time as all this is going on.
So now it seems like that similar quality of before the tears quality where I said, oh, I'm with a ton of sensation, seems to like, is there equanimity? Is there stillness? Let me see. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah. That's funny. Oh, yeah, yeah. Here's something, I think it's something like that Will said. It seemed like it took a couple moments, but then what had happened is that I lost track of, I was telling you, oh no, it seems like this other quality of sensation, how do they call that? It's a common term. Shields? No. Disguises? Wait, distracts? I can't remember the word. It seemed like I was telling you that, wait, I can't find the stillness and equanimity because there's this other sensation that's larger. Yeah, that's what I was trying to explain. And then as soon as I started to explain that, then I couldn't find the sensation that I was claiming to tell you about. Exactly. I couldn't exactly. So then I got confused and I was like, oh, wait a minute. What's the difference between the stillness and equanimity and that sensation? And then I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't find any difference here. I think Will said something about this, but he was talking about. Like it goes back to that judgment, this frequency, higher frequency sensation item, it's being judged. Like I was saying, oh no, not this, like this, there's a negative judgment there. And then somehow through this process and what Vince just said, no, Alan just said, there became this, I couldn't judge it in the same way. Actually can't even find it. just kind of goes to show just how sensation is constantly shifting. Mind is shifting because that judgment is not asserting itself.
Could it be as simple as trying to figure out what this judgment is? We go to the mind and then we remember that it's only the mind and we fall back into what's always there.
Yeah, what's happened here is like a collapse between what's always there and the form it's showing up in, or something like that. Like, what's so-called always here didn't seem to be here because it seemed to be overlooked by sensation, a particular kind of sensation. Did that make sense? What I just said?
To me, yes. This is a wonderful example, I think, of what we were talking about earlier in the call, where you mightn't have been here, that we actually, there's more here than we give ourselves time to notice. We get caught up with the activity within what's always here, more than recognizing what's always here.
Right. Yes, and what's always here is, just as you say that again, what's always here is not an activity. And then, I guess falling back into that, so to speak, I lose track, really, of, it's like the activity itself dissolves back into the non-activity. Yeah. Yeah. It's just seeing if that's accurate. And this is a kind of like a high level of sensation. Yeah, I guess there's a preference for it to fall back into a recognition of what's always here, as if it's distinct from the activity itself. And I think that this is what I'm saying, is I'm not exactly so sure. Like, I can't really find the evidence for, yeah, actually, yeah, that's weird. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. I think that's exactly what happened earlier. So two directions. It seems just like there's two directions: falling back into what is always here that is not an activity, or going into the activity and the activity ceases to be categorized as an activity. It seems that it's no longer felt as an activity. And then there's tears. But we can move on to someone else and continue to just do this. This has been a big help.
I think this is such a beautiful example of that awareness, the just being with the what's happening. It's just the what's happening. And the mind tries to make sense. But what happens is intense sensations, tears, and the awareness just watches. And it just holds space for it. And it just happens. It's just what's happening. And the mind is trying so desperately to explain or understand. But maybe no understanding is necessary. It's just what's happening.
Yeah. And this is like, I've been with this sensation for a couple days now, but it's been strongly coupled with very strong, like I was saying, images. And it's so strange. I got on the call and the images were not there, but boy, the sensation's very strongly there. So this was just a very raw, without stripped back of images opportunity. So
And that's all that's happening. Yeah.
exactly.
And the awareness just watches. It's just free flow.
Yep.
And the attempt to make sense of it gets in the road of everything, changes the experience.
Kind of muddies it. But then that's what's
Sure,
happening
yeah.
as well. That's what's happening as well as the attempt. And the awareness
Right.
watches it happening.
Yeah. Like the attempt could be made, that's fine. The attempt could be made of no consequence really. So muddy it, yeah, it could be said like that. Though I'm not even
But not
sure
in a bad
about
way.
that.
Yeah, not muddy in a bad
Okay.
way. It just adds
Right.
kind of
A little
nuances
bit.
to something and sends it on, which is all what's happening. So there's nothing wrong with any of it. It's just
That's
like going on this wild ride of watching the mind, emotions, and sensations interact with each other.
mind, emotion, and sensations interact. Yeah.
And there's the
Kristen,
watching of that. There's the watching of that.
And Kristen, just in terms of what you said about the images not being there, if we really just give ourselves the freedom to look, we might be surprised that they are there, but ever so faint. Their vividness might have been dialed down, but they're still there and having an unconscious effect, and it's that decoupling that finally happens that causes it all to fall away.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, images still there. So we said images, and then I became aware, or there was waiting in the wings, or always there some reference, right, to this image that, yeah. So if there's, okay.
There's a subtlety, that referencing that you report there was still a referencing going on, even though there didn't appear to be an image.
Yeah.
This is really subtle, but this is at the core of it. And to say that the decoupling caused it to fall away is even too much, but for where we are now, it might be useful.
There's no dimension in the image. There's no dimension or something. All the dimensionality or so is in the sensation, it seems. But yeah, there's a subtle. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say this, it's in this, what you said about the referencing in the experience here, it's that referencing that goes on at such subtle levels that is the root cause of suffering.
Yeah. Mhm. Mhm.
Just jump in, Remiz.
What was the gentle?
Remiz has something to say and he's put his hand up. And I
Yeah.
just noticed it. Yeah.
I don't know how to explain this. It's when I try to feel my feelings, it feels like there is the mom me and there is the child me, and it's like I'm being my mom, giving space or protecting the child me, and there is the dad me is not included. It's like it's behind, and he's yelling at me as the child me, and the mom me is trying to protect the child me from the dad me, which exclude my dad even more. And it feels like I'm not able to feel the child me from all this self-judgmental thoughts in the background. So it's like I can't give the space to myself to feel what I'm feeling because there's all this noise happening in the background. And my instinct is to give space to my dad, is to understand his perspective, his feelings, that he's not intended to hurt me. He's just his way of loving me, his way of protecting me from something he's afraid of. And it's like I don't know what to feel, like to feel the child me or the dad me or the mom me, and it's like I can't include all this at the same time. It's like I have to have a perspective or a view to look from. Anything make sense?
Yeah, from me, what I'm hearing from is it makes a lot of sense. Being willing to give yourself space, as you said. I think that's what I heard you say. All the noise in the background, being willing to give yourself space to see what the truth of what is actually happening is really rang very true. How does that feel to you? That call, if we could call it, to give yourself more space in this.
It's like which self exactly, which part to give space to. It feels like it's always excluding something. It's like it's not. I'm not giving myself space as whole. Something is rejected.
Mm.
Do you have any sense or notice what might be the source of the rejection?
What do you mean by source?
Or where the rejection is arising from, where it's coming from? This sense of
In the body.
This sense of rejecting the wholeness.
Do you mean in the body?
Well, in the body, just in experience, shall we say, at this point. It could be a feeling, it could be a thought, but just this, where is this coming from? If there's, as you give yourself the freedom to have the space to notice, is there a sense of rejection there, or does something come in addition to that to give you a sense of rejection?
I feel like this sense of rejection is always here.
Is always there?
Yeah.
You're aware of the sense of rejection.
Yes.
So that in itself tells us something, that sense of, or being aware of that sense of rejection is something other than who you truly are, to put it in that language for now.
I think it's from the perspective of it's like I should accept something.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like there's opposites, that if I accepted one part, I'm rejecting the other part.
Mm-hmm. So
it's like two parts that is not harmonious.
Right. So I don't know whether you were on the call earlier on, Ramiz, and then perhaps on previous calls, Paul has talked about seeing these thoughts, these parts, if you will, as putting them up on a blackboard, on a whiteboard. You can see them. You've got this sense of rejection, and then there's something else over here that seems to be contradicting that. Can you put both of them up on the whiteboard? And you're aware of both of them.
Yes.
Okay, just stay with that. So they're up there, and the tendency is then to follow through and either push against it or pull or try to figure it out, do something with them. But if you just have them up on the whiteboard, so to speak, and just let that be. Just tell us what's happening.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's absolutely fine.
It's like it feels like it feels awkward.
Feels awkward. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's totally understandable. I feel what you're feeling when you say it's awkward. It feels different. It's a different perspective is the word that's coming. Just to let that be. This process of what we call identification, thinking that thought is me and it's so close. Now you're giving yourself the space that you talked about, just to see them as they are. It's creating a little bit of distance, shall we say. Now this sometimes is not, there's not a dramatic change right now when we would necessarily want it or like it, or it doesn't happen how we want it to happen. But just being with that, if you're able to just stay with that, that's all that needs to be done. Just see them on the whiteboard and you are aware of them. And feel the awkwardness too. That's something else we can put up on the whiteboard. Right now, this is what we can call an untangling of the thoughts and the sensations and who we truly are, this knowing that we actually are.
So is the thought or the feeling that I'm excluding some part of me is just a thought?
Well, as you just experience that now, let's not even try and say yes or no, but could it be a thought?
Yeah, we're conditioned to want answers when we ask a question. So learning that we don't have to have an answer for a question can be good.
That's right.
Integration is the word that comes to my mind.
What was that, Vince?
Integration.
Integration, yes.
Letting things settle and integrating.
And Ramez, if you notice the question that you asked, could this be a thought? Right there, within the question is the possible answer that won't come from thought, but will come through you just being willing to sit with that question. This is what we mean by direct looking.
Well, I'm going to call time. So this is a perfect place to end today.
Vince, can I just ask Ramez?
Of course.
Just right now, are you sensing that you can just stay with that as much as you can? It'll come and go perhaps, Ramez, so don't worry about that at all, but just bring yourself back to where you are now from time to time. Is that a possibility for you over the next little while?
Yeah, I do this a lot.
Beautiful. Just stay with that. That'll be beautiful. That'll be really, this has been so good.
I just get entangled with the emotions and the sensations.
Say again.
I get entangled with the emotions and the sensations.
Right. So this
I feel
is
like
part,
there's something to do.
Yes, exactly. And there's nothing to do but just see that. And that's where the disentangling will start to be experienced. Okay. Thanks, Vince.
Thank you, Alan.
Yeah, thank you, Ramiz. Beautiful. Thank you for being so honest.
Right. Bye, everybody.
Thank you all.
Vince.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Everyone.